I am an investigative journalist at WUSA 9, and I have the pleasure of kicking off today's presentation and welcoming you to Serving Together's 2-year in practice review. We're here today to look at the data from the last 2 years and to highlight the work of this fantastic program that connects veterans, service members, and their families to vital resources across the DMV while also building capacity for organizations in the community. We'd like to give a special thank you to Serving Together's partners for being here today for this momentous milestone. And if you guys remember at last check, we had almost or at least 100 people on this call. So thank you for everyone for showing up today. Every Mind has been serving Montgomery County for 63 years, delivering quality health and human services to the community. Every Mind saw a need through their crisis hotline to support our military-connected community, and in 2011, Serving Together was born to address those needs and service gaps. In 2013, Serving Together created its peer navigation program, and in 2017, an exciting partnership with the Institute for Veteran and Military Families at Syracuse University was launched. This partnership brought the community of practice and the innovative AmericaServes model to the National Capital Region. The vision of AmericaServes is that every service member, veteran, and their family can easily access the full range of comprehensive services required to achieve their unique goals and to provide a first-class service experience. AmericaServes works to ensure that all public, private, and nonprofit organizations serving military families are accountable to one another and should embrace formalized communication, coordination, and transparency. This partnership introduced our community to the Unite Us platform for the first time. Utilizing the Unite Us software, Serving Together and IVMF have been able to track clients' journeys as they gain access to resources, gather critical data to predict service gaps, and track the community's needs. Today, nearly 100 provider partners in the Unite Us network use the Serving Together AmericaServes Coordination Center to ensure that those who served are served as seamlessly as possible. For me, this mission is personal. For those of you who don't know me, I'm not only a journalist who is focused on military stories, but I'm a military spouse myself. My husband is in the Navy and currently stationed at the Pentagon. We PCS'd here from Norfolk last year. Like many of you know, military life is quite the adventure. Some of ours is actually hung on the wall behind me, as we were talking about earlier. It's affectionately known as the We Are Awesome Wall. It has change of station gifts, plaques, awards, and photos from our many moves individually and as a family. It's a reminder to us when things get tough or on those first few weeks when you don't know a soul and you cry yourself to sleep. I know, I've been there, that there's a reason why we do this, that the sacrifice is so worth it. Military life can be rewarding and difficult all at once. There are so many challenges. I constantly thank my lucky stars I was able to find a job I love where the military has moved us. But I know through my friends and my reporting, that's regularly not the case. My life and my job have given me an inside look at the joys and struggles of military life and the need for services specific to our unique population. We all know the one thing we can use more of right now is time. To have a place that streamlines all kinds of services for veterans, service members, and their families is priceless. There's absolutely a need for this kind of resource that Serving Together and all of its partners provide to our community. It's important for us all to be a part of this effort, and throughout this morning, we will be giving you ways to get involved in this important mission. So, with that in mind, let's get started with our program. It is my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, who brings more than 25 years of public and private sector experience to her current leadership role at the IVMF. Prior to joining IVMF, she led JP Morgan Chase & Company's efforts to develop and implement a comprehensive firm-wide strategy to assist members of the military, veterans, and their families. As a managing director, she oversaw the firm's Office of Military and Veterans Affairs, which was responsible for, among other things, the 100,000 Jobs mission. It's a commitment with other companies to hire 200,000 veterans by 2020, and the Chase Home Rewards Program, a commitment by the firm to award 1,000 mortgage-free homes to deserving veterans through its nonprofit partners. Under her leadership, the mission grew to nearly 200 companies, hired more than 240,000 veterans, and solidified JP Morgan Chase as a national leader in veteran employment. Prior to joining JP Morgan Chase, Maureen was a senior vice president with Giuliani Partners LLC, and from 1997 to 2002, she was employed with the New York City Police Department. Initially, she was there as counsel to the first deputy commissioner and then as NYPD's deputy commissioner for policy and planning. During her tenure, she was an integral part of the team leading the city's response to the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001. Prior to assuming a leadership role at NYPD, she spent more than 12 years working in New York State's criminal justice system, assuming positions with increasing responsibility and leadership, including simultaneously serving as general counsel to the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services and as counsel to the Governor's Director of Criminal Justice. As Chief Operating Officer for IVMF, Maureen is responsible for all aspects of the Institute's daily operations, personnel, and financial activities. As a member of the leadership team, she works to guide and support the organization's program and services, research and evaluation activities, as well as its relationship with public and private funders. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome Maureen Casey to the screen.
Thanks so much, Laura, for that very kind introduction. Obviously, I didn't have a chance to, I would have edited a lot of that stuff down because the really important work is about the work that we do here at the IVMF now. But I want to say welcome to everyone. Greetings from the Institute for Veterans and Military Families here at Syracuse University, which is behind me on the hill. It is times like these, while very much appreciating what technology has enabled for all of us over the course of the last several months, that I do miss not being with all of you in person. Although, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not sure we would have had quite the same kinds of conversations in person as we just did this morning. Today, we will reflect on the 2 years since Serving Together became a member of the AmericaServes family. Know that we are all better for it. In preparing for today, I was reminded of the network's formal launch at the Women's Memorial in Arlington National Cemetery just after Memorial Day 2 years ago. It was a really powerful event, and not just because of its location or the program's impact that had already been realized and spoken through the story of Sherrod Wade, but also because we were formally launching a most impactful partnership with EveryMind, an organization that had already been serving the needs of veterans and their families in the Capital District region, yet wanted to elevate their game and do more better together. As many of you know, Serving Together is part of a national effort known as AmericaServes, which is overseen by my teammates at the IVMF, to include Vincent Del Signor, who is the market lead for this region. He and the rest of the team do great work, and I thank them for that. AmericaServes is a national collective of place-based initiatives that are dedicated to quickly and efficiently connecting veterans and their families to resources in their communities. In other words, alongside all of you, we're in the business of helping veteran families thrive. To that end, simply put, Serving Together and the EveryMind team represents some of the most thoughtful and dedicated individuals doing this work today. As mentioned previously, Serving Together existed prior to joining AmericaServes, and their deep-rooted experience in this work is evidence. For instance, our team at the IVMF oversees the community of practice for our AmericaServes communities, holding monthly meetings with all of our networks across the country. And this is just one place where you see Serving Together team thrive. They are most engaging, always asking questions, seeking to learn best practices from our other communities. They also share what's working for them and trying to see those successes replicated in other communities. The work of community collaboratives like Serving Together and AmericaServes is not easy. It requires a focus and dedication for all who participate in it, especially all of you who are in attendance today. Without you, this work simply wouldn't be possible. So thank you for all of your exceptional efforts in serving our military and veteran community. As the team will discuss shortly, together great strides have been made in collaboratively serving the veterans of the National Capital Region. Although we do appreciate there's more work to be done, but I know we can all take comfort in knowing that in serving together, we have a team that's up to the challenge. We look forward to seeing what the future holds for the National Capital Region as our work continues to grow and evolve. Those we serve, those who have worn our nation's uniform, and their families are counting on us to do so. Again, let me offer my thanks to everyone for your commitment and hard work, in particular Ann Mazur, the CEO of EveryMind. It is through her leadership that the successes you will hear about today were made possible. And it is now my distinct pleasure to introduce Ann. As just mentioned, Ann is EveryMind's Chief Executive Officer, and she has dedicated her career to fulfilling the missions of nonprofit organizations. She has been a member of EveryMind's leadership team for 14 years and CEO since 2016. Ann led EveryMind, previously Mental Health Association of Montgomery County, Maryland, through a name change in order to more accurately reflect the expanded reach and mission of the organization. Ann's ability to combine strategic thinking with an intuitive understanding of the organization's mission has positioned EveryMind to continue to expand programming and services while exploring new opportunities to serve the community. Ann has a degree in finance from the University of Maryland, College Park, and prior to joining EveryMind, Ann held senior leadership positions at the Chelsea School and the Endocrine Society. She is currently a member of the Montgomery County Department of Health and Human Services Advisory Committee, a member of the Suburban Hospital Day Treatment Advisory Committee, a member of the Montgomery County DHHS Behavioral Health and Domestic Violence Recovery Work Group, and board treasurer of Nonprofit Montgomery. Ann, thank you, and over to you.
Thank you, Maureen. Really appreciate that introduction and want to thank you for the partnership that we have formed over the past few years with IVMF. We are extremely grateful for that partnership, and it was wonderful to hear, Laura, the timeline that you provided our work with Serving Together. And thank you, Laura, for being here and hosting us this morning. And it was wonderful to hear about your personal connection to the work of Serving Together. Wanted to quickly share my personal connection with Serving Together. I support this work in honor of my dad, who served our country as a Navy sailor in World War II. I'm the youngest of six, so my father, as an 18-year-old, left high school and went to serve our country in World War II. And the work with Serving Together, I continue always to think about him with our work here with our active duty military veterans and families, of course. I would like to first recognize and thank our funders. As I look at this list, many of these funders have been with us since the start of Serving Together, as Laura mentioned, in 2011. Also wanted to welcome everyone here on the call, and I understand we're over 100 at this point. Many of you have also been with us since the start of Serving Together's work in 2011. So it's great to still have all of you connected, and happy to welcome all of you, and also those of you that are new to the works. We welcome you joining us this morning. I just wanted to give a very brief overview of EveryMind and the connection between Serving Together programming and EveryMind. So EveryMind is an independent nonprofit organization, and we provide mental health services for over 60 years here in the National Capital Region. Our mission is to strengthen communities and empower individuals to reach optimal mental wellness. EveryMind provides direct services, community education, advocacy to support children, youth, adults, veterans, and their families. Services typically support the community's most vulnerable and low-income residents. This past year, I'm happy to share that Everymind provided direct services to more than 24,000 individuals in our community. Our programs and services are directed at reducing the stigma associated with mental illness and ensuring our entire community has the resources they need to reach optimal mental wellness. Some of our programming, we provide crisis prevention and intervention services for the entire community. We do that by providing a 24/7 telephone hotline that also includes text and chat services. We are one of the providers that answer calls to the National Suicide Lifeline through that crisis work. Also, education around crisis, mental health first aid, suicide prevention, as well as self-care. We provide case management and counseling services for children, youth, adults, and families, which provides school-based mental health for at-risk students and families. And we partner across the community with other youth-serving organizations. We also provide services for our older adult community through a representative payee program, which provides individuals with a disability or mental illness support in managing their finances, and also Friendly Visitor, which assigns a volunteer to a member of our community to help combat loneliness and isolation among our older adult community. We also have a team that does street outreach for homeless services. And of course, last but certainly not least is our Serving Together program, which we will be focusing on today, and all the great work of Serving Together. It is, again, my pleasure to have you all with us this morning, and I would like to briefly introduce the team that will be presenting and working. Many of you know every member of this team already, but wanted to highlight our team members here. First, on the Serving Together team, our director, Heck, and I actually have the pleasure of letting all of you know that don't already know that today is a transition day for because she actually, as of today, is been promoted into the position of Chief Development Officer for Everymind. Yay, I see some hands clapping there. So as all of you know, will continue to be an extraordinary advocate for the work of Serving Together. In her new role as Chief Development Officer, she'll oversee fundraising and development, as well as marketing and communications for the entire organization. And obviously, Serving Together is a huge component of that work. And I think you should all be thrilled to have in that new expanded role at the organization. So I wanted to highlight that. Also, I'll just have everyone wave, which most of you already know, Christy Kennedy, who is our Senior Manager in Northern Virginia with Serving Together, Jennifer Watson, who is our DC and Southern Maryland Program Manager, also Melissa Barber, who is our Program Manager in Maryland. There's Melissa. You can tell they all have their nice Serving Together background, navigating the way. And then Erica Fatale, who is our peer navigator. And many of you talk with Erica on an ongoing basis. Also, I know Maureen touched, but also want to welcome our team from IVMF and Unite Us. Vincent Del Sogno, Program Manager with IVMF. Mary Rachel Cavill, Research and Analytics Fellow at IVMF. And then also our team with Unite Us, Kendra Cantry, who is Senior Account Manager at Unite Us, and Joshua Swain, hopefully I said that right, Network Health Manager at Unite Us, Joshua. And with that, I will turn back to Laura to take us through the program.
Thank you so much, Anne. We've got just a few housekeeping notes for everyone before we get started with the data, as we all learning and hearing way too often during these times. And I said it earlier, please make sure you are on mute. That said, we still want to hear from you. So if you have any questions or comments, as you have been doing, please put them in the chat and we will make sure that we are monitoring that. Also, if there's something that you missed or want to review, we will be recording this and it will be available for everyone after the event. So I will toss it now to AMSA to begin.
you, Laura. Thank you to everybody who's commenting in the chat. We're excited to have you here. Before we get into the data, I wanted to have a moment of silence. I'd like to talk about a dear friend to our program who passed away this weekend. David Perez was an Army veteran whose motto was duty, honor, and country. He championed the veteran community with his unwavering advocacy on issues ranging from VA benefits to mental health to community building. David was a great matchmaker of organizations and forged strategic alliances to further his mission of service to his fellow Maryland veterans. Most importantly, he was a friend whose infectious energy and passion for veterans' rights touched our entire community. Please offer a moment of silence for David Perez. Thank you, everybody, for remembering David and letting us take that moment today. Just to reiterate what Laura said, we will be sharing not only the recording of this presentation, but the slides separately from the recording in an email following. If you have any questions, we do have a question and answer session at the end of the program, but also please feel free to direct questions in Zoom, and a member of the Serving Together team will respond as appropriate. And with that, let's get into the snapshot. Christy, can I have the next slide, please?
1 second, I was going to pull up a poll for you.
Oh, I am sorry. We're going to have a quick poll to see who's in the room. We want to know what type of organization everyone here represents. I'm excited.
Give it just another 5 seconds and then I'll show the results.
And over half of the people in attendance are from the nonprofit community. So we thank you for being here, our providers. We thank our funders for being here, for the government representatives and those from the military that are here. And if you belong to other, we're excited to have you here, and I hope that you'll contribute during the Q&A and speak up when you see an opening. Just excited to share this data and just bring this community together, especially with everything that's been going on in the world. This is our 2-year snapshot. This slide gives a broad overview of the data we're going to dive into today. Since our official launch as an AmericaServes Coordination Center in May of 2018, we have had the privilege of serving the veteran and military community in Washington, D.C. and 17 surrounding jurisdictions. This year, we crossed a big milestone by reaching over 1,000 unique clients receiving services, some weekly, some monthly, and some with less frequency. Those unique clients come to us with many needs that require streamlined care coordination across the region. We are proud to have matched service members and their families with resources ranging from employment and housing to benefit navigation and mental health care in 2,735 service episodes. All of this is only possible because of you, our network providers. Within the Unite Us network, as of April, we had 96 providers and 233 users. These users represent multiple programs, departments, nonprofit organizations, and government entities who are dedicated to serving our military and veteran population. In addition, we work with hundreds of providers in and out of network to ensure that the highest quality resources are available to anyone referred into the Coordination Center. 84% of our clients are the veteran or service member. 8% of our clients are their families, their spouses, parents, adult children, and caregivers. We continue to serve a higher percentage of female service members and veterans than our partner coordination centers. 10% of all veterans are female, while the military averages between 10 and 20%, depending on service branch. At Serving Together, you can see that 28% of our clients self-identify as women. You can see here that we also collect data on race and ethnicity. We strive to work with partners who serve our underserved populations and who have cultural competency in providing resources to clients from the Black, Latinx, LGBTQ, Native American, Asian, and many other communities. Last January, we led training as IVMF's Regional Community of Practice Champions on the unique challenges minority service members and their families face, and ways that we as service providers can bridge those gaps. However, the data is only as good as the information entered. We ask that you, our community, help us on focusing to collect this data and enter it into Unite Us during your intakes, so that going forward, we can work with you to create greater equity in service delivery throughout our region. Our clients come from all service eras, branches, and age groups, representing a broad range of military service. Our highest concentrations are post 9/11 veterans and service members in their middle ages. This is consistent with what we believe is a high transitioning population that we'll talk about in some of the later slides. Let's look at the next slide, where you can get a better look at exactly where our services, partners, and clients are located. I think we're ready for another poll. So before we asked what kind of organization or background you're coming from, today we want to know where your organization is located. You can see on this map the 18 jurisdictions in which Serving Together operates. And I know that many of you belong to our collaboratives in Southern Maryland, Prince George's, Montgomery, Frederick, Fort Belvoir, Fairfax, Loudoun, and more. I know some of you are partnering with us on a DC town hall that we'll be hosting tomorrow. We have 38% of attendees in organizations from Western Maryland. That's Montgomery County and West. 19% from Southern Maryland, Prince George's County and South. 31% from Northern Virginia, 22% from DC, and 21% from outside of those regions. Over the last several years, you've all been a part of Serving Together's growth to these 18 different jurisdictions across the DMV. From our roots in Montgomery County 9 years ago, we've spread further and further to be able to encompass your organizations and partner together. We want to thank you today for being here, and we're very grateful for the virtual environment that allows us to come from far and wide a little more easily. And with that, I'm going to hand off the next slide to Christy.
All right. Good morning, everyone. So I'm going to talk a little bit about who are we serving. So the slide reviews kind of all the network clients we've served broken out by quarter. And quarter is since the beginning when we kind of did the soft launch in December of 2017 through the end of May 31st of this year, 2020. So the most recent quarter at the bottom is Q8, which would be from March to May of this year. So as you can kind of see, we have an average number of requests per client is around 2.64, which means that each unique client is typically requesting more than one service request. We'll see that they will, we'll kind of discuss more about co-occurring needs, shortly, and we'll have Erica kind of explain a little bit more about that along with Jennifer. But this data shows that we are really working to uncover additional client needs. When a client contacts us and they're presenting the most pressing need, Our peer navigator is really working to ask them, do they need other resources like mental health, food assistance, employment resources? So again, in that last quarter, quarter 8, you can see that our requests are actually averaging 3 service requests per unique client. So we are seeing additional needs per client, especially with the beginning of this pandemic that started in February, March timeframe. There's a lot of different needs, and we'll kind of discuss that more. On the right side, we pulled out a few notable stats that include who we've served, specifically within the female veteran space. I think it's really important for us to understand the difference between the 25% we see here and the 28% we saw on the previous slide. This is specifically to the military and veteran clients. On the previous slide, that could have also included caregivers, military spouses, veteran spouses, and such. So that is why that number is a little bit different. But as you can see, the normal, kind of local veteran population for female veterans is 17%, and 25% of our clientele is female. So we are serving a lot of female veterans. We also have a large percentage of the under 45% population. So when it comes to that, half of our clients are about the age of 45 or under. We believe that this can be due to them finding us online, utilizing Google and search to get connected to our web form on our website. About 22% of our clients are coming through our Get Assistance form on our website, which makes it important to note that many of those veterans age 45 and under range may be transitioning or in need of more pressing support, such as employment. And you'll find out more as we talk later on this morning about employment being the most requested service category in this region. And so with that, I will turn it over to Erica to kind of talk more about what are our top needs from our clients.
Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see you all on this virtual call. This slide is just showing our top needs for our clients for the past 2 years. These are 80% of the top needs that our clients call in for. And as Christy mentioned previously, 45% of our clients are under 45 years of age, which does reflect the transitioning needs for our veterans. When transitioning out of the military, veterans really do need that wraparound support with either finding employment, income support, housing, individual and family support, benefits navigation, and health and wellness. Since our official launch in 2018, employment has remained the most demanded service with over 714 requests and 26% share of requests. The National Capital Region has a very competitive job market. And during calls with our veterans, we've noticed that they experience worry and fear about the prospects of jobs available. They also have explained they don't understand how to transition their military service to civilian workforce, and they are also unsure what positions they qualify for or what field they may want to enter in the future. And I would like to call on Saren Santino Francis from IVMF Onward to Opportunity to share some insight on challenges our veterans and transitioning service members face when obtaining employment in the National Capital Region. Karen, are you on the call now?
I'm here. Thank you. What do we see that the challenges are? Some of them are not ready to get out yet. Some of them are needing the certifications that Onward to Opportunity offers them. But a lot of them are simply trying to figure out where they want to go and how they want to change their life. We have a lot of them, our older ones, sort of at the top end, Erica, of the group you were talking about, have been in for 20 years and they're getting out, and this is very scary. The younger ones are worried that they're not going to have a retirement, and that's when they come to you folks, because they need that income support, because this is not the cheapest place in the world to live. And those who are also looking at the health and wellness, I'm thinking mostly about the mental health issues, especially of someone getting out with a med board. So you folks are the ones that we send them to so that we can tell them they will make sure that they do it all for you and you've only got one place to go. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you for that insight. I really appreciate it. And you did also make a good point. The high cost of living in the National Capital Region is also a very big factor on finding stable employment or finding a job that will be able to help supplement rent, food, anything you need to keep yourself sustained. And with that, I wanted to talk about our remaining client needs. Number 2 on the list is income support with 472 requests and 17% share of requests. Income support entails emergency financial assistance, Social Security income, or disability benefits, or veteran pension and disability benefits. Number 3, we have housing and shelter requests, 452. And I just wanted to mention that clients calling in for housing and shelter are not seeking housing all the time, or they might not even be homeless. They may be seeking home expenses for repairs, moving costs, storage fee assistance, assisted living, or just help paying their rent or mortgage bills. Number 4 on the list is individual and family support. Individual and family support entails caregiving services, childcare, mentoring, peer support, service animals if a veteran is requesting that, or social service case management support. And we also have benefit navigations coming in at number 5 that has 186 requests with 7% share of requests. And our final top need is health and wellness at 166. Health and wellness not only reflects physical health, but also mental behavioral health therapy, substance abuse, wellness that includes mindfulness, meditation, therapeutic programs, retreats, and also more. And on the next slide, I just wanted to tell you all about our remaining service categories for the past 2 years. 118 service requests for legal support range from anything to help writing a will, military discharge upgrades, benefits advocacy, and family law. And education and food assistance both come in at 88. And the remaining needs range from social enrichment, utilities, clothing and household goods, transportation, money management, sports and recreation, entrepreneurship, and spiritual enrichment. And at this time, I would like to highlight the work and support of our program manager, Jennifer Watson.
Great, thank you so much, Erica. So what I'm going to share now is a client story that will hopefully paint a picture for everybody on how those needs that Erica talked about worked, how we uncover those needs. Our client called and stated she had divorced from her husband, who is currently active duty military. She also has a teenage son. She originally called a peer navigator to discuss legal assistance resources to aid her in custody paperwork and also to file a defamation case that she had against her former husband. Through a thorough intake, it was discovered that the client was interested in mental health assistance for her and her son. Now, remind you that even though she is currently divorced from the active duty military member, her son is still a military dependent. Our peer navigator was able to discuss how the client's son loved woodworking and used it as a therapy for himself, as he was missing having an activity to do. A mental health referral was made on behalf of the family for individual and family counseling to the Stephen A. Cohen Military Family Clinic at Easter Seals. They will be participating in the Cohen Clinic's new telehealth services. The son was also referred to Bridle Paths to assist with acquiring a therapeutic writing hobby that will help with his mental health and his activities. The referral was successfully accepted and will resume when their program is fully operational since suspending services due to COVID-19. Our client was also then referred to another partner, the Legal Services of Northern Virginia, for her custody case and her defamation case. She has been recently assigned legal representation. To date and currently, our client is currently working with one of our newest organizations, affordable housing providers, Cloaked Inc. Through them, she is getting help stabilizing her credit and assistance to find supportive housing for her and her son. Our client was extremely grateful and happy with the support that she not only received from Serving Together, but from our network providers. Can you go back a slide, Christy, please, to the diagram? Thank you. So this slide diagrams how the in-network referral process looks. As you can see, we start with the call from the spouse. The spouse will get connected to the coordination center, and the referrals are branched out from us, highlighting how one client coming through Serving Together can get a multitude of referrals for different requests after one phone call. This conveys the importance of serving the whole client and their families. Okay, Christy. For this slide, we will be discussing co-occurring service categories. As you know, co-occurring needs are those requests for assistance that come out during the intake process, just like I said before for the client story that I just read. This is demonstrated in the top needs category. You'll see above the top needs categories are employment, income support, housing and shelter, individual and family support, benefits navigation, and health and wellness. The drop-down categories under each section represents the most co-occurring need discovered through our intake process. Please take a moment to view the slide and the multiple needs under the service categories. For example, health and wellness is a top service category. Those that requested that service also discovered they needed the additional service assistance for housing and shelter and individual family support and legal. The legal tab may look like an outlier on this chart. However, our legal also we uncovered a multitude of needs for DD-214 upgrades and service benefit connection ratings. Through this data, we can also see patterns, meaning if a client needs employment, they are more than likely to also need assistance with financial matters and housing matters like rent or mortgage payments. The same goes for income support. If a client is calling for financial matters, they will most likely also need help with housing and employment. This data allows us and our providers to recognize patterns and assess and assist with needs based on those patterns. If we remember the client story I just presented, one call uncovered 4 separate requests, demonstrating that the Network and Coordination Center is a critical tool implemented to care and assist for our providers and our clients. Serving Together has thrived on applying a holistic approach when serving our military and veteran clients. This means that we assume the great responsibility to uncover more service requests from our clients and ensure their sustainability. Currently, we are serving on average 2.5 to 3 needs per client, and due to COVID, we are seeing those actually increase over the past couple of months. So I just want you to take another moment to look at the chart before we move on. I found it very interesting that if you look through each row, there is such a sustainable pattern of noticing, for uncovering these needs. So now let's take a minute to shake things up a bit. I'm going to introduce Melissa Barber. She is up next, and she is going to get a poll going for everybody. Go ahead, Melissa.
Good morning, everybody. I'm excited to see everybody here today. We do have a poll on the screen. The question is, if you could travel anywhere this Labor Day weekend, where would you go? And I will give you a few minutes to make your choice. There we go. So it looks like everybody would like to be lounging at the beach, and that was my answer as well. So hopefully we're all going on a trip sometime this weekend, Labor Day weekend, which is this weekend, shockingly, or next weekend, I think. It's very close. Thank you, Chrissy. So this slide, we want to talk a little bit more about who our participating network providers are. As you can see on the top of the screen, we have been growing, and we've risen to 96 registered participating organizations since the beginning, where we started with 49. On the right of the screen, you'll see who our providers are that are making referrals in and making referrals out, that we are making referrals out to. At the top, you will see our top 6 providers who are making referrals into the network. We have Friendship Place, Code of Support, Service Coordination, Northern Virginia Community College, Northern Virginia Veterans Association, and the Stephen A. Cohen Military Family Clinic at Easter Seals. I'd like to take a minute to call out to Mallory Lass from the Cohen Clinic to see if maybe she could share a little bit about her experience using the network and the Coordination Center. Mallory, are you on the call?
Yes, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much. I'm Mallory Lass. Thank you, Melissa, for this opportunity. I am the outreach manager for the Stephen A. Cohen Military Family Clinic at Easter Seals. We offer mental health services. And I am so thankful for Serving Together and being able to refer individuals to this incredible network and organization. I started with our organization as the intake coordinator, and I was regularly using it. I had referrals coming into me, which was so easy to track, understand, and make sure everybody within the referral process knew what was going on. And as I've transitioned to outreach and I have individuals coming to me with needs outside of mental health, we're able to put those referrals in and see exactly where they're going and what's happening. And it is so beneficial. I absolutely love working with Serving Together, and I'm so thankful for everything that you guys do for our network, both with the Stephen Cohen Clinic at Easter Seals, as well as Easter Seals overall. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mallory. And we love working with Cohen Clinic too. It's an amazing resource that we're very happy to be able to connect clients to. Underneath the top providers making referrals, you'll see our top 6 providers who are receiving referrals from the network. First, you have Hire Heroes USA, Veteran Staffing Network of Easter Seals, Friendship Place Again, Operation Second Chance, Code of Support, and Operation Renewed Hope Foundation. I don't think anyone will be entirely surprised based on these referrals, given the previous slide showing that our top needs are housing, employment, and income support. So that pretty much aligns with some of that data we've already shared. So now I'd like to look to the left of the screen. As you can see, 84% of our providers either make a referral in or have received a referral from our organization. 81 of those providers have actually received a referral from Serving Together, and 32% of providers have made a referral in. I know that we would like to see the 32% go higher. We'd love to see more providers making referrals into Unite Us and the Coordination Center. Using the network, we have more opportunity to refer to multiple organizations and provide direct connection to resources. Ultimately, it will also allow us to refer more to you. I'd also like to take a moment to look to the center of the screen. As you'll see, our providers are also receiving more referrals from us, and we've grown from sending 27 referrals to our providers to 49. So we just would like to ask, please be a part of our network, refer in. We love to refer to you, and we're excited to be sharing our network providers with the call. Thank you. I would like to advance to the next slide, please.
Great, thanks, Melissa. All right, so the network is actually designed to connect our clients to the correct provider in a timely manner. So let's go ahead and take a look at this slide and break this data down a little bit. We're going to start with the median number of days to match a referral to a provider. It's right there in the center of the screen. This is the number of days from the very first contact call to our coordination center. Then a completed intake will happen, followed by the initial referral. Currently, we're sitting about 1.92, 2 days for that referral to happen. So that's happening from our peer navigation into the computer, the referral out. If you look below it, the median number of days represented, this is the median number of days represented. However, when we look at this data for days to match a referral to a provider, it is important to note that this set is calculated as the mean. The mean calculations can be misrepresented by outliers, and some of those outliers may include things like change of network provider organization status, change of registered network user status. It can also be providers are not using the network successfully to the full capacity and capability, or perhaps lack of training on how to use the network. Right now we are sitting at 6 average number of days to match referrals. This countdown, just to give you an idea, starts calculating as soon as the referral is sent out by the coordination center and is either accepted or rejected by the receiving organization. Just for some concept, our last IPR, we were sitting at about 13 days time to 13 days for the time to match. So right now we are super excited about the drastic decrease to 6 days, as it shows that our providers have made a great commitment to pick up referrals faster and to help clients. If we look at time to match for most requested services, we see that employment, housing and shelter take about an average of 7.5 to 8 days for a provider to act on this referral. So that can mean a few things. One, the providers request documents to be sent with the referral, documents such as DD-214s. If it's for employment, they may require a current resume to be sent over with the client referral. Also, if they have paperwork from the VA they want to look at, like service-connected disability ratings, all of these documents, take time to look over before the provider can make a decision whether to accept or reject the client case. Or as a network, this could also represent that we need to better ensure we have enough providers to provide these services to our clients so that we don't have that delay of 7.5 to 8 days when referring our cases. Our goal is always to be, to ensure we lessen the number of days reported, to include a service episode duration number of clients, which right now total typical service episode duration is about 12.5, 13 days. So the episode duration, say that 15 times, the episode duration covers from the beginning of a case to completely the end of the case. So when the case is opened and closed. Later on, we are going to hear more on this effort of timely referrals and how we can help that and how the providers can work together. We're going to hear a lot more on that later on with the Kaiser Permanente and the introduction to the P2B, which is provider to provider tool that's brand new during the Unite Us breakout session today. So we look forward to that later on this afternoon. Currently, right now, I'm going to turn this over to Christy so she can go over some more data with everybody.
All right. So another metric that we look at in terms of the success of our collective network is really to the ability to solve needs of our clients, to get them connected to quality resources, such as many of you on this call today. So since launch, 67% of service requests have been resolved by the network. We are seeing this number trending upward over the past 2 years. So we have a little call out in the middle of the slide that says over the past 2 years, the network's resolution rate has increased by 8 percentage points from 59% to 67%. So it's great that we're seeing that trending upwards to a more resolved favorably outcome. We have some breakouts on the left that talk a little bit about the largest portion of outcomes that are selected when it comes to closing a case. So whenever you close out a case for a client, you select the outcome. The most common one at 29% is the client received information, or at 21% client received direct services, which is great. Those are great components that show that that client is receiving either vital services that they need to be connected to, or they're receiving the information that they need to make a successful outcome. We are continuing to see, the unresolved selection, when it comes to unable to contact clients. So that's about 9% of cases, which I think is fairly common, especially in the service connection field. The client may have self-resolved. Maybe they were able to find a resource and they just, stop returning calls, stop returning emails. They kind of fell off the map, in terms of, responding to our peer navigator or responding to the organization that they're working with. We did dig into that 11% under the unresolved category that states other. Typically what we're seeing in there is that some organizations, when an organization doesn't know which selection to choose when closing it out from the options available, they may select other. They may say that they see another organization that they needed to refer the person to because maybe they weren't able to assist on their end. So they usually mention that in the comments. They may also mention that that they provided that client information. There's various different selections that they put in there. We find that this is an area that we may want to provide more training to you guys in the network as network users to better understand the selections that are available, understanding how best to select resolved versus unresolved, and helping you to be able to select the right outcome. We are really excited, with our partnership with Unite Us. We have expanded and updated the outcome selections recently in Unite Us. So there is more options for you to choose from to have better responses, when it comes to those outcomes. So we'll be sure to make sure that we follow up with you guys to provide some additional training to make sure that we have the most transparent information when it comes to outcomes. So with that, I want to hand it over to Vincent now, and he's going to do some data comparison across other coordinated networks.
Thank you, Christy. Morning, everybody. So I'm Vincent Del Signor. I'm a program manager at the IVMF. I have the privilege of working alongside the folks at the Serving Together team who are just absolute rock stars. So they make my life really easy. So you guys, you're looking at a lot of data here. So as was stated before, these slides will be shared if it's hard to see on your screen, but you've had a lot of information handed out to you. And what we want to do is just take a step back and see how your network is doing compared to your sister networks across the country. So what you see here are numbers. You are in the gold over here with comparisons to other networks. We actually have Brandon Wilson on the call from NC-SERVS Western. So we do have some representation from other networks that are sitting in and watching. So a couple things that I want to call your attention to that you all collectively as a group, as both Serving Together, central within every mind, but as all the service providers that are part of this collective are doing really exceptionally well, and that is co-occurrence. So the average needs per client really is a testament to the work that's being done at Serving Together, but it's also a testament to the fact that you all at the various providers are sort of standing at the ready and are able to take those cases on and work through it with folks. You also collectively as a group have the highest percentage of active providers. You have more and more of you are active. And that's really exceptional considering the size, both geographically that we looked at earlier, but as well as just the overall group of providers that are part of this network. So you can all be proud of that work together. As Melissa had mentioned, an area that we can see for improvement were the total number of service requests that are coming from service providers. So if you see an opportunity, we're going to be talking about that in a breakout group a little while, in a little while, but anytime that you can make a referral into the network, that helps boost that number overall. But like I said, this is a lot of work to be proud of, in terms of what you all are doing collectively. So it's a job well done. And if any of you have any specific questions about how you all compare to your peers, communities, and other networks, I'll be around. Feel free to privately message me or I can give you my contact information. We can talk about that more. So something that we're going to do next, and something that you may have noticed when we're talking about the data trends here, is this was sort of teetering off as COVID was ramping up and affecting all of our lives, right? So we are going to do a COVID-19 update with numbers that are sort of inclusive of that time period. So it's my pleasure really to introduce you to my colleague, Mary Rachel. She put all of these data slides together. She's an absolute superstar. So she's going to talk through some of the trends that we're seeing here initially. And then we're going to get into it a little bit more with some stories and other things that we're looking at. So Mary Rachel, over to you.
Thank you, Vinny. It's a very kind introduction. Good morning, everybody. So I just want to give you guys a very brief overview of the general trends that we saw in the Serving Together network in terms of service request volume and client volume since the beginning of 2020 through to the end of July. I will preface this by saying these are not COVID specific cases. At this time, we don't have those case numbers parsed out. So I just wanted to instead reflect on the general trends that were happening as the year began and the pandemic crisis began, and look at how Serving Together responded to the needs of veterans in the region. So I'll go through these numbers and then I'll pass it off to Erica to discuss the on the ground trends in the network to kind of give some context to the numbers here. So you can see the two lines represent service episodes and distinct client counts. We marked out the approximate beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic in the United States, which is about February 2020, give or take. So beginning of the year, we included, just for a reference point, you can see how as the pandemic started to become a real crisis in the country, cases kind of dropped off a bit, everything started kind of shutting down, a lot of uncertainty and things are going on, and that was reflected in the volume. The pandemic progressed, things kind of kept going down, and then as people, everything started kind of stabilizing out a little bit, the volume started coming back up again. People were expressing needs, different needs to help support them through this time of job loss, uncertainty, income loss, things like that. You can see the spikes are started to spike right up again after March into April and May, and then kind of start to stabilize out in the past 2 months. Again, these are not COVID specific cases or COVID specific clients. These are just general trends. It is worth saying that in other analyses we've done for other coordinated networks in the SERVS program, we are seeing a similar pattern of a very rapid dip and some spiking up again, and then some gradual stabilization as we've acclimated to the new normal of the pandemic. This is a very typical of what we've seen so far in this year. I would like to now call on Erica to discuss the on-the-ground trends and kind of provide a little more context to these numbers.
Erica, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I just wanted to thank Mary Rachel for giving some insight on the data trends for 2020. I joined the Serving Together team the second week of March, when the effects of COVID-19 were still unknown in the US. And as Mary Rachel mentioned, the number of our clients and service episodes decreased from January, February, and March, but the number of clients increased slowly at the beginning of April, and our service episodes really did increase drastically. During intake calls, I always made sure to address and ask questions pertaining to our clients' hierarchy of needs, which have shifted over these past 6 months, and I just want to address that in the next slide. Employment remained the top need from January to April, as you can see, and income support and individual and family support really did rotate between the second and third place for January to March. For the month of April, health and wellness became our third top need, And as employment increased and stay-at-home orders began, our peer navigators really did become intentional about screening our clients on their mental health state and help ensuring that our clients receive the support they need, so that they're not always asking directly if they need mental health support, As May came around for income support, that became our top need, and clients began requesting rental and mortgage assistance as they received eviction notices from landlords due to past due rent, either being underemployed and not receiving enough work hours, so that made it so that they weren't able to pay their bills in full. And also we had clients calling in that had COVID-19 that needed, in the past, that needed help paying their medical bills. June and July really did shift to food assistance as the organization began serving our clients' changing needs, and that did become a top need for those 2 months. As I previously mentioned, our client needs have changed quite a bit due to COVID-19, and I just wanted to talk about those changing needs and how ServingTogether was able to address that with food assistance. Record high levels of food insecurity disrupted the lives and incomes of millions in the United States, and the thought of not knowing where your next meal is coming from is inherently stressful. That stress not only affects your mental health, but the way you interact with food. Many of our clients have stated that they feel embarrassed or ashamed of being food insecure, using federal programs, feeling sad or depressed about not having enough resources for food, and angry and frustrated about their situation. In March, when the US was beginning to see the impacts of COVID-19, I had a mother call in seeking food assistance for her family. She stated that since her kids and husband were home all day, they spent about $500 a week on food, which really was not feasible as they were behind on multiple bills and in debt. She was picking up free school meals provided by her children's schools, but those meals were not enough for her growing teens, and not able to supplement the food that she was already spending $500 a week on. So I did provide her a list of food pantries in her area that she hadn't gone to before, but she did state that the ones she previously went to had extremely long lines, and at times food would run out before she could receive anything. And that level of stress associated with being food insecure really does change the way we think about food, how we acquire it, eat food, and that can lead to worse physical and mental health outcomes over time. In response to the pandemic, ServingTogether and volunteers from different backgrounds came together in solidarity and service to provide colorful, green, garden fresh produce boxes as a simple, essential way of caring. ServingTogether created these partnerships with Teens Helping Seniors and the Food Security Task Force of Montgomery County to help amplify their voice and role by connecting them to our veteran and military families. To give you a little background, Teens Helping Seniors primarily consist of teenagers from various schools throughout Montgomery County, and they seek to support vulnerable seniors during times of need. Both of those organizations started in March when the pandemic did hit the US, and they're still going quite strong now. The Food Security Task Force of Montgomery County provides produce boxes throughout the county to families in need, and they both help and recognize that there is a struggle of buying food at this time, especially for the most vulnerable. ServingTogether was able to connect these two organizations so that Teens Helping Seniors delivers the produce boxes and Food Security Task Force provides the produce boxes. And these partnerships were created during a Zoom phone call where we came together, discussed the needs we were seeing in all of our communities, and we got the ball rolling to make sure that our communities got fed. So the clients are able to receive the produce boxes each Thursday morning. This is on a weekly basis, and this has benefited homebound seniors, clients that have a lack of transportation and are food insecure. And these clients were also screened and provided additional resources and services uncovered during our intake phone call. Utilizing our social media platform, ServingTogether tested these new features through Facebook, their Ask for Help feature to reach our military and veteran families in Montgomery County, and our ad ran in a targeted campaign in Silver Spring, with clients reaching out to the coordination center within minutes of launching the campaign. I had one client whose refrigerator broke during the pandemic, and she stated that seeing the advertisement flyer on Facebook was just perfect timing for her. She couldn't afford both buying food and a new fridge. So 2 weeks later, she sent me an email saying that her fridge was full of produce and she wouldn't need another box for 3 weeks. So that did feel great, knowing that we were able to support a client and make sure that she wouldn't have to go into debt paying for more food, or able to help supplement her family at that time. And I had another veteran whose only source of food is the produce boxes, since she doesn't have transportation in her area to go to a local food pantry. And instead of providing that client with a list of food pantries, we were able to bring the food to them. And we hope that this partnership gives our clients a peace of mind, not having to worry about how they're going to afford food for the week. The success stories that I mentioned are just a few of the many testimonial clients that have provided the testimonials that clients have provided me during our food distribution program. And I'm really inspired to see ServingTogether partners come together in response to such great need. I'm really overjoyed to know that I'm helping reduce the amount of mental stress that comes with being food insecure. And I just wanted to introduce Kendra Canty next, who will be explaining about the growth and expansion of Unite Us and Kaiser Permanente's role in this expansion.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Erica. Can you guys hear me? Okay, great. So good morning. Thank you so much for having me. It's really amazing to see all the work that's being done in this past year. This whole presentation has just been so awesome. And I'm just so honored to be a part of, and working with ServingTogether now and IVMF. Really exciting stuff. My name is Kendra Canty, and I'm the Senior Account Manager here in the Mid-Atlantic region for Unite Us. And I'm excited to tell you a little bit about our expansion efforts, Kaiser Permanente's role in it, and then the future of the network at large. So to talk a little bit about the expansion, in June, we kicked off expansion of the network to serve all community members, so military connected individuals and beyond, in a broader territory. So this is really enabling all of us collectively to create a public utility to serve communities, regardless of where a client or a patient or a community member enters the network. That could be via an assistance request on ServingTogether's website, or by walking into a community-based organization or government agency that happens to be a partner in the network, or by walking into a hospital or health system that's participating in the network or funding the network. Additional organizations are becoming partners as well, which are adding to the resources that can serve our military-connected community members and beyond. So a little bit about Kaiser Permanente's role. They're really catalyzing these expansion efforts by providing additional funding and engagement support to the network. So they're investing in social determinants of health because they really know and understand that the biggest makeup of a person's total health happens outside of the doctor's office. It happens right here in our community. And they want their members to be healthy, and to help increase health outcomes, they know that investing in and supporting the health of the entire community by helping neighbors get connected to services and receive care more efficiently is really paramount. So a little bit about the future of the network. It will always be accessible at no cost to community-based organizations. And just want to emphasize that. On June 23rd, we opened the provider-to-provider referral pathway. So we'll touch on that a little bit more deeply in our demo later on in one of the breakout rooms. But it really enables organizations to refer to each other in addition to the ServingTogether Coordination Center. In June, we also launched approximately 70 additional providers across DC, Frederick, Montgomery, Prince George's, Charles, and Calvert counties. And we added a resource directory of more than 1,000 out-of-network providers to the platform. We're also now recruiting and engaging potential partners in Greater Baltimore for a soft launch on October 20th. And then we'll begin heavily engaging Northern Virginia in spring of 2021. We really know that these launches are just the starting line, and we'll continue to recruit additional organizations to join the network to better help all community members. And the Unite Us team will be here locally to support partners like you guys with technical questions, and then help analyze any gaps in the network. So what are the trends we're seeing, like the ones that you're seeing on here today, and how can we work with Serving Together to really fill in those gaps? Ultimately, we know you're the experts. We always welcome your insight and your expertise along the way. And we're just really excited to be more deeply involved with you all moving forward. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kendra, and everybody for explaining all of that data. Those client stories are amazing to hear. What a testament to the critical resources you all provide. So that was a lot of information to digest, and we are sure you all have questions. We are excited to hear from you. So if you can, please put your questions in the chat and a member of the team will address them. And if there's something we can't immediately answer, we will definitely circle back with you. So I'm going to go to the chat, and I see a couple of things in here. Linda said, impressive representation across the region. A new service need that is emerging since COVID-19 hit is reliable access to internet and hotspots. Would love to be able to support clients in rural areas that don't have access to the internet, which is constraining their ability to do telehealth and telemental health. Do we have any updates on that?
Erica, would you like to talk about some of the needs that you're seeing around technology as well through the Coordination Center?
Sure. Since a lot of clients are not able to go directly to libraries to access internet or use computers, we've noticed that we've been receiving needed support for laptops, or clients are not able to search for employment online or edit their resumes. So I've been sending referrals to Tech for Troops. They do provide free laptops for veterans, our clients, and we reach out to other organizations that are able to help with the shipping fees needed to have that delivered to them. So that need, I see that need growing a lot more in the future as people are having to work remotely and aren't able to get access to internet at their house, or just don't have technology available to do that.
And then Erica, while we have you, I think somebody in the chat said, please share about Farms for Valor program that's delivering fresh vegetables weekly. Do you have more information on that?
Yes, I do. Judith Black she works for Elks Lodge Rockville. She was able to help fund that partnership with Fields for Valor. Pete Scott, he has a farm on his land that provides fresh fruits and vegetables to veterans and their families free of charge. They do have produce boxes that they deliver on a weekly basis, fresh fruits, vegetables. I know that they also have eggs available for them as well. And that started at the beginning of the pandemic as well. We have a few partners in that partnership: Elks Lodge Rockville, Fields for Valor, MCCH, Montgomery County Coalition for the Homeless, and Bethesda Cares. So we started that partnership due to clients needing food assistance at this time.
And then Kendra, this one might be for you. You mentioned Kaiser, and Linda said, is Kaiser working to increase the number of providers in Frederick County? If so, can you report on the progress?
Yes, we are working to increase providers in Frederick. You know, Kaiser is working jointly with Unite Us and kind of leveraging some of their connections, and we are working very closely to recruit and identify gaps as well. I'll mention that there are, I would say in Maryland right now, there are the most providers in Montgomery County, but we're slowly but surely growing in Frederick. And, you know, would love to connect offline to talk with you about, you know, organizations that you might be familiar with that you'd like to see on the platform. We've found that co-hosting strategy session with partners is a great way to increase engagement because they already know and trust you. And again, we know that you're the experts with the insight. So would love to kind of connect and pick your brain after the call as well.
Thanks, Kendra. And then another question I just got, for nonprofits that have a national presence and services, how do we become part of that out-of-network directory?
So, and I guess my question to your question would be, are you looking to become a part of the out-of-network directory, but not actively participate as like a receiving provider or refer out? Is that what I'm hearing?
It doesn't say, but that question was from Steve Jordan. So Steve, I don't know if you want to pipe in for that follow-up, or if you two want to connect outside.
Yeah, thanks very much, Laura. Yeah, so my question is, we serve, we're DC based, and we certainly serve the constituency in the national capital region, but as a service that provides legal support to veterans nationally, how do we get our services out there so that all the other networks are aware of our services?
Oh, I see. So you mean kind of possibly participate in other networks in addition to this one, you're saying?
Right.
Yeah. Why don't we connect offline, because we can talk about some of our other networks across the nation, and it might be nice to connect in a more detailed way about what makes the most sense. Does that work, Steve?
Great. Thank you. Perfect.
Thanks.
And then just moving through this chat, and I apologize if I missed someone in here. There's a lot going on in the chat to monitor. Somebody else, and this was hit on a little bit in the presentation, but Kate said, thanks for the data distinction between women veterans and others. Looking forward to learning more about what you're seeing in their needs. So if there's anything brief to hit on with that wasn't discussed in the presentation, that's also in the chat. I imagine there's some more data in the slides, and we'll make sure that we send those out after. And then one question we just got, have you had any service providers drop out, or have you had to discontinue referral to service providers who are not providing feedback? Is there anyone from the panel who can answer that question?
So I can kind of talk to that. You know, in terms of you know, onboarding providers and getting providers onboarded, we have had some turnover in staff and organizations. So we have had organizations that have kind of dropped off, or what we call become inactive. We still leave them in the network. We just can turn off, you know, referrals to them, so that we know that we don't have the capability to refer to them very easily right now until we can get a new staff member on board. In terms of discontinuing any services with anybody, we try and do our best to vet them up front, to make sure that they're a legit organization, that they're able to receive referrals, you know, checking their status to make sure that they're an active organization, that they're able to actively receive referrals. So we try and do our best to do that. If there is any organizations that we do have concerns about, we do have the ability to, again, make them inactive as well, and turn off that capability for referrals if we need to. And we can obviously work with our team at Unite Us, you know, to make sure that things are updated on their end as things change. We've known several organizations, especially during the coronavirus, have had to pause services, or not able to receive, be able to conduct services temporarily due to the pandemic. So we've worked with them to kind of make sure that those items are updated, their offerings are updated, their service lines are updated. So I think it's really important, you know, especially during this time, if you've had changes to your programs, to your organizations, to please let us know any updates that you have You can always submit them. We have an org update form that we can send out to you to provide updates on your end. If you have new staff members you want to add or remove any previous staff members, we can do all of that on an easy form that can go through and update everything. So keep that in mind, and please reach out to us, or as you'll meet Joshua here in a little bit, our network health manager. He can also help with updates and things like that to your organization profiles.
Thanks so much, Christy. And if there's any questions that we missed at the end of this, we'll provide contact information for anyone who has something that wasn't addressed, or if we missed it in the chat. I apologize. It's always a little tricky to monitor. So moving along, because we know everyone's time is very important now, we're going to head into our breakout sessions. We have two amazing panels for you. The first is on the top military and veteran needs in the National Capital Region during COVID-19. We will have some of our community partners in the fields of employment, emergency response, food assistance, housing, and mental health, and they'll be discussing the challenges they are seeing from the military and veteran community due to the coronavirus pandemic and how we need to work together collectively, especially during this time. And the second panel will feature our partner, Unite Us, who will provide an overview of the Mid-Atlantic Community Network expansion, review the new provider-to-provider capabilities, and answer your questions about the platform. So how do you get into your breakout session in this new Zoom era? You'll need to change your Zoom name to let us know which session you'd like to be a part of. So you right-click on your image, select Rename, and then enter 1 or 2 before your name for the first or second panel. AMSA and Christy will work some magic on their end to get you where you need to be. So if you missed any of those instructions, they're on the bottom of this slide right now. So we will see you back here to wrap up after those breakout sessions.
Can't find it.
Sure. Sounds good. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining our panel this morning, Top Military and Veteran Needs in the National Capital Region during COVID-19. My name is Karishma Sheth, and I'm the Chief Program Officer at EveryMind, and I'm excited to be here with you all this morning. And I am joined by our panelists. I'll give a quick intro, but I just wanted to highlight, so as you all saw through that incredible data presentation, that over the last 2 years, our top 3 needs, I should say, have really been employment, income support, and then housing and shelter. And then as we all pivoted, with COVID-19 in March until now, we've really seen those needs remain at the top, especially with housing and employment. Then, as you also heard Erica mention through some of her client stories, that we've seen a tremendous increase for food and a significant increase of food insecurity with the onset of this pandemic. And so we have a great panel joining us this morning to focus on these 3 needs, which is employment, food insecurity, and then housing. So I'd like to introduce our fellow panelists this morning. Let's start with our employment expert, David Muir, who's the Senior Vice President of the Veteran Staffing Network at Easter Seals. And David is the SVP of a social enterprise project at Easter Seals, which is the Veteran Staffing Network. And the VSN is dedicated to providing top-tier military talent to employers while assisting veterans, guardsmen, reservists, and military spouses to help them secure long-term meaningful jobs. Since being hired to build the VSN, Easter Seals has been responsible for putting more than 2,500 men and women to work in 35 different states, which is incredible. And this unique program has also enabled Easter Seals to provide career coaching services to nearly 11,000 veterans and family members over the last 6 years. And prior to joining Easter Seals, David developed a job search curriculum utilized by the Commonwealth of Virginia. And in 2011, he was a solution architect and lead instructional designer for the first redesign of the TAP employment workshop in more than 20 years. So welcome, David. And then I'd also like to introduce Patrick Campbell, who will be our food expert on the panel. And Patrick is the Senior Emergency Manager for Montgomery County, Maryland, which is one of the most diverse counties in the United States. Patrick has operational leadership for the following county plans, which is a bunch. So mass care, recovery, family reunification, emergency support for undocumented peoples, and he's also the National Capital Region's chairperson for mass care. In addition, he works with hundreds of organizations throughout the county to provide emergency and disaster assistance that is culturally appropriate and trauma informed, which we know is a significant need in our community. Prior to this position, he was the state disaster lead for Red Cross Virginia. During this time, he deployed for multiple national disasters, providing critical shelter, housing, feeding, and recovery support to communities devastated by hurricanes. And earlier in his career, Patrick served in the United States Coast Guard, deploying for disasters and providing search and rescue support. Currently, he is very active with the COVID-19 response in Maryland. Along with his regular duties, he's supporting the public health response and expanding programs to protect our homeless communities, vulnerable populations, managing quarantine hotels, and working on expanding the medical capabilities of the county and the mass fatality unit. His most significant effort has been his leadership role in the Food Security Task Force with the mission of reemploying food workers and feeding the many unemployed. He is currently assigned the following operational roles for COVID-19 response, which is Operational Chief for the Food Security Task Force and Logistics for Chief Community Testing. So welcome, Patrick. And then hopefully we will also have John Pomeroy joining us. He's the Director of Supportive Services for Veterans Families Program at with Alliance and Shepherd Pratt. So welcome to David, Patrick, and John. And I'd like to start off our panel discussion by having each of you just answer this initial question, which is, how did your respective organizations pivot in response to COVID-19? And how, with that pivot, were you able to serve your population? So David, maybe if you want to start.
Sure, happy to. And thank you, Karishma, and thank you, everybody at our partners at Serving Together, Every Mind. We've really enjoyed our time together, really since your inception. COVID impacted us significantly, like many others. Probably a dual blow. So from an employment standpoint, our primary mission is to engage employers and get them to work with us as a staffing provider. Hiring has slowed to a crawl across the country, and the job market's really changed a bit. What we've seen is obviously the hospitality, tourism, travel industry was completely decimated and continues to see some significant negative impact. Professional services was a little bit more fortunate in that regard, although the companies in the professional services arena certainly took a pause on hiring to kind of see how COVID would shake out and to adjust to its now primarily remote workforce. And then organizations that had an incredible spike in hiring were tied really to supply chain, grocers, delivery folks, think Amazon, Instacart, things of that nature. So it's been a very interesting shift in the world of employment. And then on the supportive side, career coaching really took a pause as well. We did a significant amount of career coaching in person, which clearly was going to be put on pause. Our referrals slowed down because I think everybody was kind of hunkering down to see what the fallout would be. So how we pivoted, well, from a development standpoint and finding employers, we have dug deeper into supply chain with some success that's beginning to really spur. And our partners in the professional services arena are now beginning to feel a little bit more comfortable about bringing people into the fold and making new hires. When it comes to career coaching, we, like most of the rest of the country, began to leverage Zoom, which launched a new series for us called Tuesday Talks. If you haven't been a part of them, you may want to take a look. Yolanda Rayford, who's a really amazing career coach, who joined our team just at the beginning of the pandemic, came up with the idea, and she's been working not only through our network, but through our partner networks like USO Metro and a number of others to host a variety of online training webinars to teach people about things like building a master resume and how to network and how to interview in this world. So it's been an interesting shift, but innovation is part of the culture of Easter Seals, and we're really excited that we've been fortunate enough to adapt to today's nature.
Absolutely. Thank you, David. Patrick, do you want to talk a little bit about how you all have pivoted and how you've been able to support the client population as well?
Sure. I mean, for us, obviously, being the Department of Health and Human Services, we are the lead agency in response. So everything for us changed. You know, having under the Department of Health and Human Services, we have both the human services side and public health. And so for us, it was simply saying is, how do you do all this additional work with the increased traditional labor? And what I mean by that is, you know, we saw obviously unemployment benefits skyrocketed. In food security, we saw 500 to 600% increase within weeks. Obviously now we're dealing with the fact that many folks who have not been able to pay either their rent or their mortgage, those foreclosures and evictions are starting to begin again. And so sometimes for the Department of Health and Human Services, it's been the incident that never ends. You know, we usually see an arc with a disaster where, you know, we prepare for it, then it has its rise and its fall. This is not, this just continues to go on in terms of its impacts. You know, obviously it began as simply not simply, but a public health emergency, and it has expanded into a human services disaster. Food security and unemployment have affected, you know, a huge portion of the population. You know, when we first started getting involved with this, it was first like, okay, what can we do? Obviously testing wasn't available in the early stages. It was simply, you know, getting medical supplies, setting up hospitals and making sure our capabilities were ready just in case, because we didn't know what to expect. When we think about veteran population, obviously it's not necessarily an event that, you know, automatically hits every vet, but if there's already higher levels of unemployment, it's going to affect that. And then of course, one of the earlier things we began doing was just trying to figure out, how do we support homebound veteran populations with food and things like that was some of our concerns. Obviously, you have a lot of vets who come back with injuries, and then that puts them at higher risk for COVID-19. So simply putting together programs that can protect vulnerable populations was really important. But yeah, no, I would say for us, how did it affect us? It completely upturned our world. And to this day, it does not change. You know, we're still working at a high operational tempo. And you know, the only difference is in the early days, we were primarily focused more on public health. Today, probably the bigger portion of what has impacted us now is the human services impacts.
Wonderful. And Melissa, do we know if John was able to join?
I've heard he's been sent over. John, were you able to join us? He's having a little trouble getting in to the meeting. So I'm trying to work with getting him in, but I thought he had already been sent over, but I'll keep working on it.
Okay.
Hopefully we get him in on time.
Okay, awesome. Well, I can share a little bit too in terms of how EveryMind, I mean, you all have heard of the pivot that we've made with Serving Together and responding to our growing food insecurity needs with the program and serving our military veteran community. I know also with EveryMind at large, we've seen a 25% increase in calls to our 24/7 hotline. Our calls and texts have gone up, so an increased demand in terms of mental health supports as people are feeling you know, increased levels of social isolation, prolonged stress and anxiety. Those are a lot of the things that we've been hearing. Similar to what you said, David, we've, you know, pivoted to adding technology through Zoom to be able to provide mental health services, which has been significant and huge. And where that's been great is that it's really helped to remove some of the barriers to accessing, you know, mental health services, like where, you know, transportation and getting to and from an appointment is one of the biggest barriers. So, and I know with our military veteran population, we've also heard of an increase in mental health needs due to some re-traumatization for our veterans. And so I wanted to share some of the things that we've been seeing at EveryMind from a mental health perspective as well. So while we wait for John to get on, why don't we get into, we've got some in-depth questions for all three of our panelists based on their respective areas of expertise and focus. And then if we have time, we'll open up some questions, you know, from our participants. So first, David, the veteran staffing.
Actually, real quick, sorry to interrupt. This is John. I still can't get it. I'm having computer glitches, so I wasn't able to get on the Zoom part. but I am on the call-in part if you can hear me. But this is John Pomeroy from Shepherd Pratt.
Great. Well, welcome, John. We're so glad you can join us. Absolutely. Before David, we move the question for you, John, if you can share with us what Alliance and Shepherd Pratt, how did you all pivot to respond to COVID-19, and how did that help to serve your client population? And welcome.
Well, one of the things that the VA allowed us to do is broaden what we could do in terms of like hotel stays. Historically, we were allowed to, we could only put someone in a hotel, a veteran in a hotel, if there was a concrete housing plan. Like for instance, today is Tuesday. If I was the veteran and I was going to be going into an apartment on Thursday, and there was a lease and all that kind of stuff, but I didn't have any place to stay tonight or tomorrow, then we could put us, SSVF could put us in a hotel room. But without that concrete housing plan, we couldn't. Once COVID-19 started, at first they allowed us to put people in hotel rooms to get them off the street that were 60 and older or had underlying medical conditions, but then quickly as things became worse, they broadened that, based on discussions with different directors from SSVF and everything, and they broadened that to where we can put, we can get someone off the street right away, get them into, we have to confirm eligibility, but once we confirm eligibility for the program, then we can get them off the street and then start working on trying to get them into permanent housing, because that's still ultimately the goal. But that's helped a lot because we've been able to get 90 people, 90 plus now, but 90 people off the streets so that they are at less risk of being exposed to COVID-19 and or transmitting COVID-19 if they would have it and be asymptomatic. So that's been a big way that we pivoted. It's been able to help the veteran community and hopefully the larger community quite a bit.
Great, thank you so much. I mean, really incredible work across the panel with all of these organizations pivoting during, such a challenging time, to say the least. So thank you all. So then moving along from there, so David, wanted to start with asking you, know that the Veteran Staffing Network at Easter Seals is one of our top providers in our Serving Together network for both us sending out referrals and then also referrals coming in from you all. And then as we saw in the data presentation earlier, employment has historically been a top need for our veterans and military families in the region. So can you speak to this a little bit more, please?
Sure. Well, the fortunate thing, if you want to look at it that way, is living near the capital, we're the last ones that are going to be impacted by a contracting labor market, and then the first ones to benefit once things open back up. Additionally, the majority of work here in the DC market overall is focused more on professional services than it is, say, hospitality, tourism, for example. Not that those industries haven't been impacted. But I think overall, what our folks still need to do is get access to skills retraining. Those people who are finding themselves unemployed, and maybe coming from markets that they've never thought they would be in the restaurant business forever, they need to begin looking at opportunities to work with partnerships through a community college or through an IMVF to be able to go and get certifications and IVMF, what I say IMVF, my apologies. But to be able to go and get the education, that skills retrained, to be able to hit the workforce in the needs that the community has. And right now that need is still focused around information technology, anything in the medical space, particularly medical billing and coding, which is not a very long training, but it is grossly needed. There's a huge vacuum of talent there. Cybersecurity is huge. Program and project management with a focus on IT. This town is very much focused on information technology. So if people can look into those areas or anything in the medical field, those two industries themselves are exploding.
Great, thank you. Thank you. John or Patrick, anything you wanted to add in terms of that, or I can move on to Patrick. I've got a question for you. So since the shutdown due to COVID, food, as we discussed, clearly became a top need for our military-connected community and across, the region in general and across the country. So can you please share some of the unique challenges that you're seeing? And I know that you're studying the relationship between food insecurity and mental health. So can you speak to that a little bit as well?
Sure. So when March hit, initially, obviously, nobody was, the big question right away wasn't, food security, until all of a sudden, they started shutting down everything. And now all of a sudden we had people who had to make a decision of what they were going to pay for, whether it was one or both people who lost income or people who had it reduced. So when we first started thinking about food security, then we, very quickly in early April, we already started seeing a 300% and 400% increase that our food providers. And when I say food providers, that's like saying the word food bank, but food bank means a very specific food provider. All groups that hand out food are considered food providers. We had to decide, where did we need to first put our energy? And so when we were hitting early April, our food providers, their growth went up to 300% to 400%. And then the entire food market shifted. All of a sudden, people who were getting a lot of their food from restaurants were now having to go to a grocery store. So that then created a secondary problem for us. And that is like, all of a sudden peanut butter and pasta and rice weren't available simply because the entire market shifted from where they got a lot of their food from restaurants to now entirely depending on consumer sized packaging from grocery stores. So now we had two shortages. One, there was increased demand, but then the foods we needed for food banks and food providers was not available. They couldn't get a lot of the cheaper items. Capital Area Food Bank, amongst all the food banks in the United States, also had a drop in donations. A lot of donations comes from restaurants and warehouses, and also when that industry dropped off, they weren't donating because they didn't have the capacity. Food rescue is a huge part of the food provider world, but when restaurants are closed, they're not donating their leftover food and steaks and onions and potatoes. So we saw an instant growth. And what you start seeing, initially when we do it, we'd form an event, and if the event was going to start at 10, people started showing up at 9. But as the event started going on and over the months, we'd start an event at 10, people started showing up at 7. As the lines got longer, they started showing up earlier. The reason why I believe the mental wellness part of it is so very important and why we can't forget about this is because they're coming to line 3 hours early, not because they want to. They're coming it because they have food insecurity. And when we have insecurity and we don't believe we can meet our basic human needs, we're going to do whatever it takes. So we have seen things that we call like, some people will call it like food hoarding. They might get 4 or 5 boxes in a week if they can, because next week they might not get any. Whether that's true or not, it doesn't matter. If you're fearful of not being able to feed your family, you will do whatever it takes. And so our goal, came to is how do we expand our food program? So we did a couple tiers. One was we started purchasing as a county large amounts of food staples from wholesalers. It put wholesalers back in business. But it also increased the amount of food that they were able to put out. We partnered with USDA in a number of programs where we're pushing out about 500,000 pounds. Yeah, 500,000 pounds. I want to make sure I didn't say that too high, but it is 500,000 pounds of vegetables and fruit a week. And then we also had to say, okay, how do we protect specific groups of peoples? So obviously you have disabled populations and you have veteran populations that may have disabilities. You have senior populations that are high risk. We know COVID affects those with diabetes, heart disease higher. So we did institute specific programs that supported them. So for example, we expanded the county's senior nutrition program by quite a bit. So where we're actually delivering more meals to people who cannot prepare food themselves nor go out and get it. We also expanded how we brought food out. We expanded the ability of our food providers to deliver food to high-risk people. So some people could prepare food. It was just too risky for them to go outside. So we get them unprepared food that they can cook at home. But a big part of food security, I really think it's really important to realize is that when we get people food security right, it takes a lot of pressure off them. They know they're going to feed their kids. They're going to be able to feed themselves. It allows them then also to focus on maybe what else is going on in their life. Maybe they were already dealing with mental illness that was strong before this. If I can't give them food security, I'm going to make that worse. And so I can't, there isn't a detachment between food and not food, right? They are together. And, my feeling was we worked really hard and really aggressive to expand our food programs. We have a huge food network now that's expanded. We've added dozens of additional food partners, including Every Mind, who also now delivers food. We have dozens of food partners, groups that never did food before, CASA, churches that weren't originally food providers, but they work with a certain ethnic community. And so what we realized was for us to meet food security and meet the demand of the community was we had to add culturally appropriate partners that worked in those communities, but also expand to non-traditional partners like Every Mind, like CASA, who are normally human services, to reach out to everybody. Because the other thing about it is especially if we're dealing with mental illness or folks who have high disabilities, they're not going to be the group that wants to say, oh my God, I need help. They are often kind of protective of that side of themselves. So when we work with partners that they're familiar with, it means they have a connection that will allow them to get in there. So food security to me, I mean, you know, we're not talking about it as much because, you know, we started with a pandemic, then we talked about, you know, food insecurity, but we have the ability to, I'm not going to say correct any issues here, but we have the ability to make people feel secure so they can take care of themselves, that they can meet their basic human needs. You know, when we think of Maslow's, you know, theories, if they're not eating and they don't have a roof over their head, they're not going to be able to do the deeper work that it takes to heal.
Absolutely. I mean, and that is so critical. And we see that in our work every day at Every Mind, even before the pandemic, that if you are worried about where your next meal is coming from, where you're going to be sleeping that night, then you are not emotionally, mentally ready and available to receive therapeutic services, right? Because you're trying to get your basic needs taken care of. And I mean, and then the mental stress that you spoke to, you know, for so many, sorry, there's a little feedback, so it threw me off. You know, in terms of being a provider and then not being able to provide for your family and for your loved ones, some of their basic needs, the impact that that has and makes you feel as a provider, you know, and a caretaker that I can't even support my family with their basic needs of food, you know, it has a huge mental and emotional toll on people. So thank you for sharing that, Patrick. It's really some incredible work that's happening across the county. And so glad to hear that. So John, I wanted to focus on a housing specific question for you. So housing continues to be a top 3 need in our region. It has been you know, for many, many years now. And with so many eviction moratoriums being lifted, what do you see, you know, coming down the pipeline, and how is Shepherd Pratt preparing? I mean, it's hard to prepare for the wave of housing that's anticipated, but if you could speak a little bit as to how you all are preparing and how you're responding to some of these moratoriums being lifted.
Well, one of the ways we're preparing, first of all, by the way, so there's no confusion, when you hear us referred to as Alliance or Shepherd Pratt, we've actually, Alliance has been under the Shepherd Pratt umbrella per se for many years now, like 8-10 years now. But we are officially, like as far as branding, will be listed as Shepherd Pratt. So anyone out there in the community that's worked with us before as Alliance, if you see Shepherd Pratt's SSBF, that's the same thing. There's no difference in the staff or the contact numbers or the services. Anyway, so I just want to make that clear because I know that can be confusing because that's right in the middle of changing right now. But as far as, and to answer your question, we do expect, as everyone does, that there's going to be a huge eviction wave at some point. And we're just not positive exactly when it's going to come, and that it's been somewhat staggered because there'll be, you know, because the moratoriums, and it'll be lifted somewhere, you know, potentially somewhere and not somewhere else and stuff like that. So what we've been trying to do is preemptively get a hold of as many veterans as we can that are behind on rent and, you know, aren't working. And when that moratorium is lifted, they are going to be identified very quickly as being someone that's far behind. And so we've tried to preemptively start paying back their arrears and working out, you know, different. I'm sorry.
Is there, Christy or Melissa, can you check on that breakout room ending? I think we still have.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't know if everyone was hearing that or that was just me. But so we're preemptively trying, we've been over the last few months trying to anticipation of that wave to come, paying down back rent as much as we can with people. Now I know there's some veterans that unfortunately, I'm saying this as a veteran, it's not a shot at veterans, but they're busy with other things and haven't gotten in contact with us yet. That will once the wave starts. And so at some point it is going to be a big wave, but we're trying to cut down on as much as possible by starting to pay back rent, you know, back in June, July, and, you know, through August and everything, because obviously that's coming, and not only are people behind. Okay, so I just got the message saying that I'm now in a breakout session. Does that mean I was cut off before?
Yes. So
John Pomeroy, do you have any problem with us putting your contact information in the chat?
No problem at all.
Okay, we'll do.
So John Pomeroy, but still it's confusing because it's Alliance, but our emails still say Mosaic, which is also under Shepherd Pratt, but we are Shepherd Pratt. So for right now, my email address is still john.pomeroy@mosaicinc.org. So I have no problem with that going out at all. We'd be happy to work with any agencies we can to help veterans, and we'd also be happy to be contacted by any veterans directly that we can help. Keep in mind, for anyone that's not as familiar with our program for SSVF, there are eligibility criteria, and the eligibility criteria is that someone is either homeless already or facing homelessness, like they're facing eviction, or even with the moratoriums, they're behind enough that they would face evictions once it ends. 2, they have something other than a dishonorable discharge or a bad conduct discharge because of a general court-martial. So anything other than those things we can help with. And then the final thing is we have the AMI guidelines, area median income. They have to be 50% or lower to be eligible for our program. And we're supposed to actually target 30% lower, but we can help up to 50% lower. But if it's 50.1%, I'm not trying to sound sarcastic, and we don't have any discretion with that at all.
Great. Thank you so much, John. And thank you for all the incredible work that you're doing. I know there's a lot of concerns. I mean, you heard, everyone heard Ann say, like, one of the programs that we offer at Every Mind too is homeless outreach services. And, the concern with moratoriums being lifted, how that's going to impact our clients and communities with housing. So there's a lot of concern of what's to come down the pike. So I know we have about 15 minutes. So I'd like to open up to our panel with one kind of final question, and then we'll open up with any questions from our participants. So what message do you want our audience, our participants, to take away from this panel today? And David, maybe if you want to go first.
Sure. So, first off, job search really begins and ends with knowing what you want, right? So if you've got someone who is not sure, like directing them to the VSN, talking to us just about that exploratory conversation. I think the young lady who was speaking from IVMF earlier today had mentioned that, the biggest challenge that they see is people not knowing what they want to be when they grow up. Once you have line of sight on that, then you can begin to take action. From an employment perspective, the administration currently has put a huge push on apprenticeships, and I think regardless of the results of the election in the fall, in November, you're still going to see that continued push because people going through apprenticeship programs are absolutely achieving results. There are long-term career path opportunities there. Franchising is another way for individuals who are interested in finding a career path that has some not only long-lasting potential, but takes advantage of the skill sets earned in the military. Another great pathway to flow through. And if they have questions about that, they can certainly reach out to us, and we're more than happy to direct them.
Great, thank you. Patrick, your takeaway or for our audience, or a call to action?
It's interesting is when I first took over the role of food security, it wasn't my first, wouldn't have been my first pick. It's like they asked me, pulled me into it because I wasn't paying attention to it. And the more I've dived deep into it, you realize that even before this incident began, we actually had a lot of people that were food insecure who weren't aware that services like this begun. And that's true with many services, whether it's mental health or job assistance. And so, I think the struggle is always going to be for us to figure out how do we expand our outreach. And in that sense, I say, if anybody is interested in trying to figure out how you serve more veterans who are food insecure, I can get you connected into the food network because I'm now on the food council for the county. But, a lot of counties also made it that it was a challenge for people to find out where food resources were. And we've learned and we've adapted. We've created actually a call center now. If you call 311 in Montgomery County, they'll refer you to a food network that will help connect people to food services that are appropriate for them. But we know outreach has never been strong enough because there's never enough money put in it. So we have to make sure we're expanding our outreach. We have to make sure that we're connecting with the audiences that need us. I look at it simply. My work is real simple in the sense that my job is to shape your narrative. And what I always say is by shape your narrative is if you're struggling with food and the story is I was struggling with food and nobody came to help me versus I was struggling with food I was able to easily find the resources I need, and there was a bunch of groups that directed me in the right direction. That changes their outcome, you know, how they got about. And, you know, that's what I hope we're going to do. And I hope that as we continuously send out flyers, we continuously try to find unique ways to outreach. And that's why even reaching out to this group, letting people know there are resources there. You know, they can call 311, you can call 311 is huge, because getting them connected sooner than later changes that narrative. It wasn't I struggled for weeks and no one came. Instead, it was I struggled, I told somebody, they got me connected to what I needed, they gave me the help I needed. And that also means food networks need to be aware that there are mental health services out there. So when they have the opposite encounter, somebody needs that, they refer to the appropriate place as well.
Absolutely. I love that. Thank you. And John?
One of the things that we're part of the Housing First model, and like Maslow's hierarchy of needs was referred to earlier. Obviously, if people don't have the needs like food and shelter met and everything, then they're less likely to be able to reach out and take care of other things. I really want to emphasize during this time period that, especially for a lot of the veterans that we're dealing with, that we're trying to help that have post-traumatic stress disorder issues, that's living kind of like in a crisis type mode, you know. And there's a lot of things that you learn, like when you're in violent situations, and you know, certainly combat situations, but violent situations, there's a lot of modes of operating emotionally and you know, and practically and everything that are very geared towards the right now and the survival, and they make sense and they're smart and to be able to adapt to those environments, but they don't necessarily translate into like the getting back into the world and having like a living life strategy, like for thriving. There's a difference between thriving and surviving. And I just want to remind everyone to be mindful right now that while a lot of veterans were already struggling with those kind of issues, now on top of that, there's almost kind of an exponent because the country is kind of in a crisis mode. Not kind of, I mean, we are, you know, in a lot of ways. And so those two can play into each other to where someone that's already struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder, now they've got the crisis on top of it with COVID-19, I think that can feel particularly alienating for them, because they can feel even more so alone and go very much back even deeper into that crisis mode where they're not thinking in terms of plans and reaching out and what's going to happen next week and next month and 3 months, because things are transient. You're just surviving. You know, you can't count on we could be in this base camp today, and this base camp might be gone a month from now. You know, theoretically. I mean, there's just a lot of different things. So, the more we can do with outreach, like was mentioned before, the more we can do with quickly linking, you know, getting in touch with people and then getting them linked up with services, or at least letting them know of services and trying to help encourage them with constructing plans and everything to keep them out of that survival transient type mode. I mean, like even before COVID-19, we used to have case managers that would say, like, I don't understand why someone won't go to, you know, DSS, you know, for instance. Well, or like, in the sense like they were just being defiant. And I used to say, like, obviously we do have some defiant clients, but generally, if you're up all night with nightmares, if you're checking the windows over and over and over to see if an enemy's coming, if you're thinking about, you know, your friends over and over and over that aren't here anymore and all this kind of stuff, and the things that happen to stop them from being here and all those kind of things, a lot of the day-to-day practical stuff doesn't register the same. It doesn't seem like it would to someone that's not dealing with those things. It's not an excuse. I'm saying it's something that you have different things weighing on you. So it's always been incumbent upon us to try to get in there and help, not just us, I'm saying all of us in this field, to get in there and try to help and try to bring them back to the world to where they can go towards less survival strategies and more thriving type strategies. And I just want to emphasize that during this time period with COVID-19, I think that's coming up a lot for a lot of people, because it does feel like things are so uncertain that what can you count on? So the more we can reach people, the more people we can reach, the more quickly we can reach them, and the more we know about each other's services and the way we can connect them to, hey, if you're food insecure, we can get you right to this place, get you in contact with this place. If you're housing insecure, we can get you right in contact with this place. It's always been important that we work together, but during this time period, I think it's crucial that we all work together, and try to help everybody, but in this case, I'm talking about the veteran community, not have that sense that they're alone and everything's transient and you can't really count on anything being there tomorrow if it's there today. So the more we can show them stability and the opportunity for stability, I think it's that much more important right now during this crisis.
Well said.
Yeah, I would completely agree. And the only thing I would add to that is that EveryMind is a mental health provider. I mean, we all have spoken to how, you know, with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I mean, food, housing, employment, you know, being able to support your family is critical, but then the impact that this pandemic and everything else going on in the country and in the world is having on our mental health, that, you know, to remember to also then connect with clients in our communities about mental health. So your basic needs have been met, but now, you know, you've been through a lot. It's been traumatic, it's been stressful, you've been isolated, you've been anxious, you know, and maybe some mental health supports can also be beneficial and helpful. And so helping to have those conversations, helping to change the conversation a little bit around mental health and wellness, so that helps to reduce some of the stigma would be, you know, I just want to add to all the different aspects and calls to action that we have. So I know with that, we have about 5 minutes left, right, Christy? So if there are, you know, any questions that anyone has, if you want to, I mean, I'm comfortable with, unless there's a bunch, but if somebody just wants to turn their mic on and ask a question for any of our panelists, please feel free to do so.
Not for me.
Yeah, not for David.
I know we had one question in the chat. I don't know for sure if either any of you guys might be able to answer this, but Peggy, I believe, asked, what are you finding with evictions of military personnel in the region as spouses have been losing jobs?
Could you say that again?
Yep. So it says, what are you finding with evictions of military personnel in the region as spouses have been losing jobs?
And are you speaking, is that military personnel, like still active military personnel, or military veterans?
I believe they're referring to active military personnel.
Peggy, are you still on?
Okay.
I would say that the majority of the evictions have not yet come to pass. That moratorium is getting ready to be lifted. Unfortunately, we're going to see a wave of that here in the very near future. So I don't know that we can answer that question yet. I think 90 days from now, we're going to have a very different.
Yeah, and just to add with David, I meant the only processes that have begun were the pre-COVID-19 eviction processes that began before. So we're not going to see it yet. And you know, a number of counties have instituted programs to help, so we won't know how that will play out in the bigger picture yet. Still a lot of information that needs to come still.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, this is Linda Brogowski from the Frederick County Veterans Advisory Council. I put in the chat that the county will be entering into an MOU with Maryland Legal Aid to do eviction prevention, specifically for people who were affected by COVID-19. It's not specific to veterans, but it doesn't exclude veterans. So assuming that the individual meets the income eligibility requirements, they could get eviction prevention services from Maryland Legal Aid. If for some reason they don't meet the eligibility requirements, then Maryland Legal Aid will make a warm transfer for pro bono legal support. So I just wanted to throw that out there, and people are more than welcome to contact me directly, and I can connect them once the MOU is signed, which should be in the next week or so.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that, Linda. That's a great resource to have. Any other questions real quick while we have another about minute or so?
I see one comment in here from Julie. She mentions USAA has also launched the Military Family Relief Initiative, which includes $30 million of support to military families affected by COVID-19. So if there is an active duty family facing eviction, please have them reach out to Julie at jriggs@bluestarfam.org. So she put her contact information in the chat.
Great, awesome. That's also another great resource. Thank you, Julie.
There's one other need that has emerged, and maybe this is not the best way. Maybe Serving Together has heard this. You know, we started the program with a minute of silence for David Perez. Military families are expressing concern about funeral expenses and just funeral support generally. So I want to throw that out there as something that we need to come together on. Thank you.
Absolutely, good point. And I believe, you know, in terms of, you know, this network, the beauty of the Serving Together network is for us to rally together. So continue to be a part of our collaboratives, continue to be a part of referring people in and having these exchange of referrals for us to, you know, successfully help these clients that as they're coming through the pipeline and we're seeing these needs rise over the next several months.
Here we go, back in.
All right, well, thank you everyone for participating, and a special thank you to David, Patrick, and John for sharing your knowledge and expertise with us. Very much appreciated. Great work, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back, everybody. I just wanted to first take a second to just thank our presenters for our two panel discussions, Kendra and Joshua from Unite Us, and as well as David, Patrick, John, and Karishma, who led up our military and veteran needs in the NCR during COVID discussions. I hope that you found them helpful. We wanted to make sure that we added an additional layer to this conversation today and to give you some additional you know, context to things that are going on right now. But also provide you some additional training with Unite Us. So thank you all for our presenters and our panelists and speakers that were part of that discussion today. To wrap up, we have just a little bit left before we wrap up for the afternoon. But I just wanted to say that we are very excited to be part of this growing network in the Mid-Atlantic. Our connection with Unite Us and to the support in the region, this technology has really given us the ability to provide a game-changing platform to help clients get to the needed resources in the region. As noted, Serving Together is actively supporting the coordination of care for military veterans and their families and caregivers in the National Capital Region. So whether you use the network to refer directly to a community partner through the provider-to-provider pathway, please be aware you always have the ability to continue to send them directly to the Serving Together Coordination Center for our peer navigator to be able to further assist. We continue to be a connection for clients and needed resources. With that, I do want to share just a few updates and announcements with you. As many of you are aware, Serving Together serves as the regional community of practice champion for the Mid-Atlantic. We provide professional training opportunities for network users to improve their knowledge and service to our military, veterans, and their families. We are thrilled to say our region will be expanding. We're going to be covering 2 more coordination centers, including New York City and Rhode Island. So we encourage you to share the news with your partners from those regions, or if you have staff in those communities, please let them know about these training opportunities and more that we will be coming out with this fall. I'm excited to say we are going to have 3 virtual events lined up this fall, and all of those are based on the feedback we've received from you over the past 2 years of this initiative. So in late September, we are planning to hold an event on supporting America's military and veterans with access to mental health. We'll have a keynote presentation followed by a panel to discuss best practices when it comes to connecting our military and veterans to mental health services. We'll share more details with you very soon on how to register for these upcoming events. And of course, there also will be continuing education units available for those that need them. A couple of other exciting things is we are expanding our reach. We've aligned with several strategic partners in the region, including George Mason University, the Veteran Staffing Network at Easter Seals, Unite Us, and America's Warrior Partnership, to increase the ways that we support our military and veteran population collectively. We've also turned on interagency capabilities between 2 other Unite Us network partners, including Connect MSB, that serves the Northern Shenandoah Valley region, and VetLex, who provides pro bono legal support to veterans in the Washington, D.C. region. It's powered through Catholic Charities Neighborhood Legal Services and got its start in the region with Jones Day. These opportunities will help us to serve more clients in an expanded region, as well as connect clients to critical resources such as legal assistance. We're also excited to be working on 2 new initiatives that we are going to launch in early 2021. The first will include a regional advisory board that will help Serving Together pave the way to a sustainable future, providing insight and connection to broader funding opportunities and stronger partnerships with organizations to increase referrals within the network. The second will be partnering with IVMF to pilot an ambassador program. So this is going to take clients and key network partners to help us spread the word about Serving Together as ambassadors to the program. So we're excited about these initiatives, and more information will be shared as we get them started next year. All right, a couple of things I do want to also mention as we kind of close out today. I want to, again, thank you all for participating. As you know, we still have more work to do. We've shared a lot of great successes today, and each of you have helped to make the success of this network extremely successful for all of us in connecting our military veterans and their families to resources. But with that, we still need to encourage you to join in, as collectively we can make this network the most successful when it comes to us all working together. Ways you can help include making referrals, so utilizing Unite Us to connect your client to another organization. You can also spread the word. The more providers that we have, especially ones that you frequently refer to, if they are in the network, that will increase the capacity and fill gaps to support our top needs. And last of all, partner with us. Create an opportunity for us to work collectively together to find solutions. This can include joining our community collaboratives, attending our education and training events, or helping us build a sustainable future for this network. So let's work together to have a collective impact on our military veterans and their family members. And so with that, I did include my contact information at the bottom. My email address is ckennedy@every-mind.org. I encourage you to reach out to us to establish different ways that we can help grow this community and do more to serve everyone. And with that, I'll turn it back over to our host, Laura, to wrap us up for the afternoon.
Thanks so much, Christy, and thank you to everyone who helped organize the event. I know a lot of work went into it. What an inspiring morning. Thank you all for coming to this important and enlightening event. I know I am definitely inspired by everything that I heard and everything that you all do. We truly appreciate your time. So if you have any follow-up questions, please reach out to the Serving Together team. And if you'd like to go over something, because there's a lot of information given to this morning, the slides and the recording will be available after we wrap up. And thank you again. Remember, there are so many ways to get involved and help this unique community. And we look forward to working with all of you. Have a great day.
Bye, all. Bye, everybody. Thank you. Laura, thank you.
You are all amazing.
Great.
Thanks. Makeup required next time. Well, not.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Good luck with your new job, MC.
Thank you, Linda. Don't be a stranger.
What an inspiring morning, guys. That was incredible.
Thank you.